Hi guys, welcome to the week 44 trade plan video analysis. Alright, for the focus for this week, it will be on the US dollar. Alright, simple reason is because if you look into the events calendar for the week, we do have NFP coming on Friday. Okay, and another thing I would like to point out over here is we are seeing some divergence between the US dollar and of course the gold inverse. Okay, and usually when we see a divergence between these two instruments, it signals a potential reversal in the dollar. Alright, and over here on the technical chart, you can see that the US dollar has been rallying. So a potential reversal would be to the downside. Alright, and of course, if you look at this chart alone itself, you can also see certain divergence happening in the RSI, again signaling a potential reversal. Alright, and if you look at the technical counts, what I'm seeing over here is a potential 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or a simple ABC. In any ways, it does shows that the downside on the US dollar seems a pretty significant or a pretty high probability of happening moving forward. Alright, and based on this simple expectation, I'm expecting the US dollar to drop either correctively as a correction or impulsively as another new move down like this. At least the first expectation will be at the 95 or 94 region. Alright, so if the dollars were to drop, then naturally the euro dollar analysis will be to the upside. Alright, over here what I'm seeing is again there will be a divergence that you can see over here as well. Alright, which means at least the minimum expectation is for the euro dollar to relieve its drop, which means we are expecting some form of either a correction to the upside or an impulse move to the upside. Right, the minimum expectation will be at 1.1478 or 1.1512. Alright, and if you are, let's say, a pattern trader, you'll be able to see that we do have a potential sharp pattern completed over here last Friday. So we have a very nice initial reaction. Okay, of course, we don't purely trade on the pattern itself, but we also look into intermarket as well as, of course, fundamental and the wave theory. Okay, so as of this week, we are expecting the euro to correct itself, right, towards this upside, which we see that this bearish channel, the upside of the channel, might provide certain resistance on the euro. Alright, nonetheless, we're expecting some form of a correction towards the upside. As for pound, very similar, we are expecting some form of a correction towards the upside. Potentially, this correction can be a wave 4, alright, of this blue 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which potentially developing into a bigger zigzag of or double correction, W, X, and Y. Alright, and again, if you're quick, you'll be able to see that when that happens, you would have a nice pattern forming as well, something like this. Alright, and once again, all those things kind of confluence one another. Alright, so you can see over here, we do not have a divergence at this very moment. Alright, so expectation over here is in the oversold territory, which means we expect also certain form of correction, alright, potentially towards 1.295 or 1.3, and then a last wave down to give us our wave 5, and that might create your divergence between wave 3 and wave 5. Right, so this week again, some expectation for at least these two major, the euro and the pound, would be a corrective one. Alright, simply because on Friday we do have NFP, so most of the time when there's a major event happening in that week, the market might simply wish or want to wait out, alright, for the event itself to take a decisive trade. And therefore, between now to Friday, the dollar, you might not see much movement moving forward, and that naturally develops into a corrective move. Alright, Australia dollar, alright, we are expecting Australia dollar to give us a higher push, alright, towards 717 or 7215. This gives us a potential flat pattern. Right, and then we do still expect one more move to the downside to complete at least this 1, 2, 3. Okay, so this week again, you can see a lot of the major pairs are aligning nicely with the dollar index. Right, which means when the dollar index drops, all this major tends to rally. Okay, so I'm expecting at least the Aussie dollar to touch and retest these levels, these areas, which coincide with the upper boundary of your channel as well. Okay, dollar Canadian last week, the BOC rates raised its interest rate. All right, this is the reaction, but we saw a very nice bounce back to the upside. Okay, which means it's still trading within the range, it's still trading within this bearish channel drawn in. Alright, right now there are a few things you want to pay attention to. Number one, this price is making high, but the RSI is showing a clear divergence. Okay, which means this upside itself needs to somehow reset. Right, the other thing is to bring you to the daily. Alright, a few things can look at is number one, alright, we are expecting this correction to be completed 1, 2, 3, which means the upside is great. Alright, we are expecting potential is this is your W, X, and Y. Alright, and then within this Y you have your ABC, which means if this goes according to this plan, your upside potential is great. Okay, because right now we are at around 1.31, we are potentially targeting around 1.35 or 1.38. Okay, but you also want to take note that there's a potential that because right now we are at the top of this channel, okay, price can still reverse and even go all the way back to the bottom of this channel. Okay, but for the minimum expectation this week, we are expecting somewhere between 1.297 1.2925. Alright, so we are expecting the dollar to weaken again. Alright, and therefore the dollar Canadian to at least correct lower. Okay, so that is for the dollar Canadian pair. Dollar Swiss franc, we are expecting downside. Okay, what we see over here is a potential completed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, or even a potential 1, 2, 3. This might develop into an expanding flat for another move to the upside. Okay, which means this is an ABC for your bigger wave 4 and then wave 5 up. Right, but nonetheless, whichever count we are putting in this week itself, the expectation is due to the downside. Right, we have a divergence over here. Alright, so minimum expectation for the downside is towards 9783, 9726. Okay, the larger picture for the dollar Swiss franc is due to the upside. Alright, as long as this low remains intact, which is a very high probability, we expect the dollar franc to continue rally over the long term. Okay, at least for this week, it's a correction lower. Now, looking at the dollar yen, it goes against the overall dollar picture because the dollar yen, if you're looking at this chart, we are expecting some form of a correction higher. Okay, giving us this as a potential expanding flat 1, 2, 3, and then of course one more potential move to the downside to complete this three-wave structure. Right, so for the yen, if I go through all the yen pairs, you would see that based on last week movement on the yen pairs, alright, this week we'll be expecting some form of a correction. Right, so dollar yen, we're expecting it correct above towards 112.9 or 113.4. Right, euro yen, we're expecting it to correct towards 129.8, 130.6, and the pound yen, alright, to correct above 145, 146 region. Okay, so because of all those impulse move on the yen pairs last week, this week we are expecting some form of a corrective development moving forward this few days. Right, similar to Aussie yen. Right, the one that you want to take note or pay more attention to is Aussie yen. Because this might be the bottom of it, we see a divergence happening. Alright, this pattern here can be a crawl, can be an expanding flat. Of course, depending on how price is going to develop over here this week. Okay, it can still do this as a 1, 2, 3, which gives us this is a one move, this is a one move down. Alright, It can also potentially be this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and therefore this potential is a reversal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a correction, and then another move higher. Alright, so there are few possibilities of it happening, but at least for the short term, we are looking for this portion over here. And if I bring you to the larger time frame, you'll be able to clearly see why this upside is great. Okay, this is a crawl or very corrective pattern with divergence happening. Some confluence over here that you can see. Two trend line confluence with each other. Alright, and if it's gonna bounce, it's gonna bounce with a potential of being great. Alright, so you want to pay attention to the Aussie yen. Alright, Euro pound. I'm seeing that we can potentially expect the Euro pound to weaken this week. Alright, you look at this structure, is very corrective. Alright, and again, RSI showing divergence. We are at the top of this channel. High chance we'll get the break to the downside this week, potentially towards 0.8623, 0.559. Right, so this is a good setup, potentially forming within this week. Euro Swiss franc. Alright, hope some of you catch it as we mentioned in our previous trade plan. Same bias, still expecting the Euro franc to drop lower. First target, of course, minimum expectation is 1.1211. We do expect it to drop even lower towards 1.1031. Okay, so right now nothing much is has changed. Still same perspective. We are expecting the Euro franc to drop lower. Gold has a nice rally recently, potentially completed a 1, 2, 3 move ABC. Few ways to look at it. We have a corrective pattern over here with a diagonal with our Fib confluence at the upper boundary of this channel. We do expect price to drop lower this week. Okay, again, if you look at this, for the gold to drop, the dollar has to strengthen or the gold has to weaken. More relatively to the dollar. Okay, so it's going against the US dollar chart, but nonetheless, we have to look at this independently as well. Alright, so the expectation for this drop or this correction is towards 1,200 or 1,190 area. Okay, so on the higher time frame, this might be the case for dollar. This might be the wave 4, which means this drop can be pretty significant, completing a wave 5 structure before the long-term rally. Okay, so this week itself, this setup is looking good. Alright, so you can potentially look for a short trade in the gold. Okay, oil is no doubt still bearish, but we do expect a potential corrective move, perhaps a deeper one towards 70 or 71 area. Okay, and this is what we are looking at, potential 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right now, price is actually trading around the lower bottom of the channel, which gives us the expectation that we would expect price to give us a deeper correction. Right, so this is what the bigger picture perspective is. We do expect a 1, 2, 3 long-term target towards $60 or even $55 per barrel for the oil market. Last one over here is the S&P. Alright, we saw a 5-wave decline. Over here at this top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we have a divergence, and therefore this week we are expecting the US market, the S&P, to give us a 3-wave correction, potentially towards 2783, 2820. Right, and from there we might see another drop. Right, but at least for this week we are expecting the correction of the S&P to happen. Alright, and this confluence very nicely with all your yen pairs, because if the equities market give us a relief rally, the yen pairs, which is the risk currency, will tend to strengthen as well. Japanese yen tends to weaken, alright, and your yen pairs tends to strengthen. Right, so this week you see quite a bit of nice confluence, intra-market, inter-market. Alright, and that's the part where you want to have more conviction moving forward into taking your trade when the setup is presented, when we had confluence across various markets as well. Alright, so that's all for me in this particular video, sharing with you this week trade plan. Of course, if you feel that this is something that benefit you and value add to your trading, do drop us some comments and feedback into how this actually helped you, all right, and give you different perspective of the market. All right, so with that, I'll talk to you in the next video.